Live from virtual Ohio, we welcome race fans one and all back to Green Flag TV, where today we get set to kick off race number 4 in the Beer League. Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, right over here from Lexington, Ohio, and back to the Beer League. My name is Oliver Benfield of Austin Edstrom, beside me in the broadcast booth. Together, we are bringing you all of the coverage from tonight's event. Well, Austin, race number 4, we get set to enter into this one. We just left Lime Rock Park all the way up in Connecticut, and it was one of the cleanest races we've had so far all season long, and it's looking like it could be a very fun night here tonight as well.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Mid-Ohio is such a great racetrack, and I'm interested to see these guys throw the Mustangs around the crazy, variable corners here. I mean, just so many different corner types. You can look at the track map right there. I mean, just kind of all over the place. You got hairpins, you got chicanes, left, right. The last section is just very strange how slow it is, but you can really get a good run out of that last corner to kind of set yourself up for turn 1. So I'm interested just to see how everybody can, manage every different corner. I think that some people are going to be stronger in some parts of the racetrack than others, and I'm looking forward to seeing who handles the entire thing the best.
It's going to be no doubt a fun race tonight as this championship continues to pick on up at the top of the boards. Tyler Augustino now sits at the top of the points board. Eric Ronenberg still has made no change in second spot. But how about Giovanni Romano doing a good job to put that Tinnitus machine up to the number 3 spot in the championship standings. He sits just over 10 points back from Augustino, but critically not looking to be qualified at the moment here in Mid-Ohio. Could be critical if Romano wants to work his way back up to the championship order.
Yeah, for sure, but he did start at the back last week, and he was able to finish, in the top 3. Is he the one that ended up winning? No, he got second place last week. I mean, just a great showing from Giovanni Romano last week, and it was from the back. So I could definitely see him, even if he finishes towards the back end of the heat races, if he doesn't put down a qualifying lap. I expect to see him in the top 10 by the end of the race.
And then, of course, you got your team's championships as well. Drop weeks are by now in play for everybody in this field. And also the drop weeks, but that is Scene Flying Donuts drop 2 positions. Tinnitus and Serial Team 6 are both up 1, but it is all to show the Chicken Runners up by 9 from Cannabis Racing, and Cannabis Racing to turn up by 4 from the Diabetics. So you've got the top 3 still remaining unchanged for now over here as we continue to get things sorted for qualifying around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course of Lexington, Ohio, as these guys continue to steadily work their way around. And mentioned before, qualifying is very much underway, and it's looking like everybody trying to put down these times early on as well. There goes Alan Kameyer for a spin coming down towards Thunder Valley.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tricky course for a lot of these guys. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of high-speed corners, a lot of slow-speed corners, and I just feel like like I mentioned, the variability of just the different style of corners that we've got all the way around the racetrack is really going to throw a lot of these guys for a loop, and I just am really excited to see who handles it the best as we see Cannabis Racing car come out of the final set of corners here on his qualifying lap. Going to see what kind of lap time he puts down.
Carson Catlin goes from 23rd up to 15th on the qualifying sheets. And, looking for drivers further down, Baron Morton making his series debut here tonight, puts himself into the number 25 spot. So a bit of work to do for Morton. Of course, he comes primarily from the oval racing side of things. We see him racing quite frequently over in the OMSRL Xfinity Series, so expecting him to try to make a splash here in this one tonight. How about Graham Jordan? Currently sits down to the number 30 spot. He'll work his way out of the last couple of corners back to the front stretch. We'll see what Jordan can do. He's faster in the first and third sectors, slower in the second, faster again in the fourth. That puts it from 30th up to only 28. So not quite what he's hoping for. What can Corey Barrett put down now?
Watch him come out of the final corner here. He's going to put down a 33.6. That's actually going to move him all the way up to the 12th position there. Pretty good lap there from Barrett as we watch him go back down into turn number 1. The Lucky Charms machine right here, the number 7 machine. But he's going to come to a stop after his qualifying session's over. But we still got a couple more guys out on the racetrack.
Still a few more drivers up on the racetrack, but none of them currently putting down laps. We're going to take a jump back. We'll be back with your heat racing action in just a few moments on Green Flag TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Qualifying is complete from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for round number 4 of the Beer League. Here's your starting grid then for heat race number 1 with an estimated 4 heats for us here on the afternoon. Chris Hannigan starts it up on that pole position with Brian LeBlanc down to the number 2 spot. Evan Campbell is in 3rd with Jason L. in 4th. Mateo Dupuis going to be in 5th with Adam Milhot in 6th. Ethan Kahn to 7th. Gabriel Asilian is 8th. Giovanni Romano and the likes of Blake Gambrell will round out the top 10 for the opening heat race here tonight. Expected to be 2 of 4 as we've got ourselves lined on up. And it looks like it's going to be rolling starts here tonight, starting behind the iRacing safety car. This is not something we've seen so far all season long here, Austin. It's all been standing starts throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, I'm a little interested. I imagine it's probably because the the way the final corner is fashioned right in front of the start-finish line, right? Like, it's just so tight and narrow that you're probably only going to fit 10 to 15 cars before the final corner if we were at a standing start, and then the last 25 would be starting in the corner. So probably a smart decision to do the rolling start this week. And we haven't, like you mentioned, we haven't seen it, but we've seen a lot of mayhem come from the standing start. So I'm interested to see, just with the rolling starts tonight, can they keep it clean? Because they're going to be a little bit faster going down into turn 1 than they normally are. Well, we've got the lights coming on and everybody's jumping, so it kind of scared me a little bit. Even though we see the pace car, I was like, well, they're just starting on the backstretch. But now the pace car is rolling, and we're going to get this thing going here pretty soon.
Things going to get themselves rolling here pretty quickly as we will work our way around through the final couple of corners on the exit of Thunder Valley and up towards the carousel over at turn number 12. It will be in the hands of Chris Hannigan, that number 4 car, the Sonic Machine, to work out of that final critical corner, turn 13, around to the front straightaway. We're green for the first time here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on this Wednesday night as we hightail it down towards turn number 1.
Front 4 kind of single file out pretty good, but they actually go side by side for second, going down into the corner. Evan Campbell on the outside trying to hold on that position. Sorry, that's a little bit further back. That's for 4th place. Oh, and he actually turns. He gets him turned. That's Dupuis going off into the outside grass. And we do have new grass physics, new gravel physics, so we might get to see a little bit of that today. But unfortunate, but up front, Hannigan's getting pressure from LeBlanc.
And you saw Dupuis able to take full advantage of the fact that the grass is a bit grippier than it probably should be here with the new iRacing build. They've already said they're going to be addressing that fact, but for now, Dupuis takes full advantage of that, goes for a 360 spin, gets it back right, and meanwhile, 3 wide for the race lead, down the keyhole straight and in towards that turn number 4. This time by contact for the lead, and look out as off the track goes Jason L. Driver's left as he spins it off and into the kitty litter.
My goodness, so much argy-bargy going down into turn 4, now through the chicane. Chris Hannigan's looking to the outside of Brian LeBlanc, trying to get that position back. He's going to try the undercut move to try to get back to his outside, but he gets just a little loose coming out of the corner. LeBlanc's able to stretch the lead back up just a little bit, and now Chris Hannigan's under fire from the 71 of Campbell.
3 laps or 4 minutes the distance here in this opening heat race as we got now Evan Campbell spinning off, and he's going to find the tire barriers that time by. Brings up another point, new damage model in play with these Ford Mustang FR500Ss, but it's not going to be in play in this particular series because the damage has been turned off, remember, as it has been throughout every single race prior. LeBlanc will lead the opening lap entirely from Mid-Ohio. Hannigan and Romano second in just behind as now Adam Milhot is off the circuit.
My goodness, this might have been the craziest first lap of a heat race we've seen all year. I mean, they were just going for it for the lead the entire time. It was really cool just to see everybody gunning for it, and that's really opened the door for Giovanni Romano, who did not put in a qualifying lap, started 9th on the grid here. He's up to 3rd, now trying to challenge our 2 leaders, but Chris Hannigan is still all over Brian LeBlanc. Man, he really dives it down into the bottom as LeBlanc misses the bottom of the corner. Going through turn number 2, Hannigan gets just a little bit loose, and they're going to come out of the corner side by side, but LeBlanc's got the power coming out of the straight.
Great drive there from Brian LeBlanc to maintain that run in the race lead, cuts it in tight as we dive it back down through turn 3 and the run for 4. Chris Hannigan pulls out to the left-hand side, sends it in deep on the brakes into turn 4, but he's in too hot and he's going to find himself losing out of that number 2 spot as a result. Trouble for Giovanni Romano here, working out of turn 3 towards that back straightaway, so potential problems. He is sitting just in behind with this big fight for second, and he's pulled it off. He's going to take the mini oval.
Yeah, he's pulling the little Joker lap there, I guess. So he had nothing to do with it. I guess he just wants to do the last to first challenge like he did last week. He almost got it completed last week, but couldn't quite do it. So we're going to get to see that again here from Giovanni just to see if he can pull it off. But man, our battle for the lead this whole heat race has just been super, super tight. We still got Brian LeBlanc and Chris Hannigan. LeBlanc ran just a little bit wide through that section of the racetrack. Coming into the final set of corners here, Chris Hannigan all over his back bumper going into the final corner. He's going to have a pretty good run down the straight, but he did have to just kind of arch, or he kind of had a narrow line going into the final corner and wasn't able to maybe make as much of it as he could, but he should get a nice toe down the second straightaway down into turn number 2.
Final lap this time by around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for heat race number 1. On board with Hannigan as he tries to charge after Brian LeBlanc. LeBlanc pulls out to the right. Believe a possible misshift there will send Hannigan in deep around the long way of turn number 2. Tries to set up the momentum run down the stretch, and work coming in by the way. The rolling starts tonight, not intentional, so we're going to be seeing back to standing start action next week. So these guys, if they like the rolling starts, take advantage of them now. You're not going to be getting them throughout the rest. And whoa, Hannigan onto the grass, trying to bully his way by, tries to send it on the brakes, but LeBlanc wasn't having it.
Man, I thought Chris Hannigan was going to send it in super, super deep after he came back on the racetrack, but he was able to just kind of back off a little bit more than I really expected, just to give LeBlanc enough room. But man, LeBlanc misses that corner a good bit on the outside, and Hannigan gets a really good run, getting back up to his back bumper, entering the last section of the racetrack.
Brian LeBlanc working out of Kentville, Ontario, fires it up in towards Thunder Valley for the final time. See Hannigan kicking that back end out, trying to keep that Mustang in line. But Brian LeBlanc runs it home in that number 1 spot. You see Hannigan trying to take whatever he can to try to close on up. It's not going to be enough, though, as LeBlanc will work through turn number 12 and back around for 13. He will pick up the heat race win, and we've got big troubles with Ethan Kahn off and into the gravel on a huge crash on the final lap.
It's so off-putting seeing the front bumper completely fall off and then magically teleport back on the race car. But yeah, that was huge contact from Ethan Kahn going into the tire barriers there. You see the tire rolling off and then magically appeared back on the race car. So he's able to finish the race still in 8th place, so could be worse.
And that what we saw there was that new damage model in full force. We'll see it briefly, and whoa, there's a good chunk of it right there. Whoa, somebody just went root first straight into the turn 1 catch fence. Romano, the last car to come across the start-finish line. Here are the results then for heat race number 1 coming up on your screens here as LeBlanc taking that race win with Hannigan second to Sealing Dupuis. Gambrel rounded out the top half. We will be swiftly moving things along, though, to heat race number 2, where Austin Tucker takes it up in first, Tyler Augustino in second, Jeremy Castro in third, Harry Haskin in fourth, Brooks Clayton in fifth, Tom Adol sixth, Alan Kemmeyer going to be in seventh, Graham Jordan is in eighth, Alex Cofford is ninth, and Mac Verstappen rounds out the top 10.
That was probably our most exciting heat race, I think, of the year so far. I mean, it was just constant battling. I mean, we saw the 3-wide fighting towards the front there on the first lap. I mean, if that's how it's going to be, I'm really excited for this main event. And you could see a lot of the slow corners, especially the hairpin, going over the ridges, going over the humps. There's a ton of elevation change in this racetrack that is very sudden, like where you kind of go blind up a hill and then come down, coming out of corners, and it seemed that really put off a lot of people, and we saw so many people getting incredibly loose out of multiple corners. I can only imagine that whenever they're side-by-side battling for position in the main event, it's going to get even more intense.
Yeah, no kidding. It's going to be wild when we get down around to the main event action for 55 minutes at the end of these 4 heat races. We got another pack at 10. Starting to work around, Alex Cofford not opting to start this heat race. He loves to start from the back and try to work his way through to the front. We are no doubt going to be seeing it this time around as we shall cross through turns 12 and 13. Austin Tucker leads the way as we pick through the final corner. Green flag is up in the air. We are racing for heat race number 2.
These are 2 of the championship favorites starting 1-2 in the second heat right here. Austin Tucker, Tyler Augustino going down into turn 1. Tyler goes defensive to make sure that he holds the second place from Jeremy Castro. But Castro uses all the curve, gets on the inside, and he's going to break completely loose, go down into the grass, almost get the inside wall as a Cannabis Racing car. Harry Haskin goes into it behind him.
Haskin with a tremendous impact deeper in the field while Austin Tucker works his way up and around turn number 2 through the keyhole as he fires it off at the heat race lead. Tyler Augustino trying to reel him in back behind for the number 2 spot. Brooks Clayton in the fray as well as we fire it down the long back straightaway, the longest stretch that we've got on the race course through to turn 4.
Augustino just a little bit too far back to make a move into the chicane here. He's just going to have to really bide his time and try to get a good run over this hump. We saw so many people get loose over here. If the leader makes a little bit mistake and gets his back end kicked out just a little bit, as he did there, not too heavy, then maybe Augustino could get down there, but he just couldn't do it. As we're looking at Kameyer back here for 5th place, trying to hold on from the 14 of Jordan behind him.
And you've got Graham Jordan trying to make moves on Alan Kameyer here as we work our way back up and through. The S's from turn 7 and 8, back around for 9 as well. Down through Thunder Valley, up to turn number 10 as we work our way under the PPG bridge. And it's going to get interesting here as we continue to march further and further on. It's looking, though, everybody being very, very calm and collected, except for this battle here with Graham Jordan trying to keep Jeremy Castro at bay. Castro, of course, having that incident on lap number 1 here right at the top of the hitch. It's looking like this could be one of the calmer heat races we see the wall season long as Castro makes the move on Jordan.
Yeah, I think Castro's probably a little upset with himself. I believe he started on pole last week, managed to get a top 10 finish if I'm not mistaken. Man, he uses that curb again. I'd be a little scared hitting that thing going down to turn 1 after what he did last lap, but I imagine he's a little frustrated with himself and just trying to pick his positions back up so he doesn't have to start too far back in the main event. But man, it's going to be really tough to come from 7th like he was back up to, I mean, he was running 3rd on the start. So it's going to be tough for him to make up all those positions, but he has made up 1 spot up to 6th place. We're going to see if he can run down Alan Kameyer.
And Castro does keep Jordan at bay, though, remember, and now Graham Jordan looking to the inside line. They're going to be alongside each other down the backstretch in towards turn number 4. Commonly referred to as China Beach, with the absolutely monstrous sand trap that you see where we saw one of the IndyCar drivers go for an absolutely monstrous tumble earlier in the year back in the real world. Again, thankfully, I don't think we have dig-in physics as of right now when we get down in the round to racing here at iRacing, but who knows? Maybe we'll test that out tonight as well. These Mustangs are far from the least top-heavy cars out there. Oh, we're going to see another slider as Castro off and into the grass.
Man, that was a heck of a battle they were having, too. They were too wide all the way through that the chicane right there at the end of the backstretch and even coming out of it. But, man, Castro's just – he's having a handful, man. He's getting loose just about every time I look at his car. But here we're looking at Austin Tucker coming through the final corners, ready to take the final lap of heat race number 2.
And Brooks Clayton, Tom Udall locked in a bit of a battle, just about a second separating them in that fight for the 3rd spot as well. Remember, 1 spot in these heats equates to 4 spots on the starting grid, so there's a lot to play for when it gets down to racing action here in these heat races. And it does mean that at a track where it can be difficult to pass, and especially in the latter portions, it is crucial to make up whatever time you can in these heats if you want to start towards the front.
Oh, absolutely. Every position, like you mentioned, is 4 spots on the starting grid. I mean, you're moving up 2 rows on the grid every single time you pass somebody in one of these heat races. So it can really mean a lot for some of these guys. I mean, if you're in 3rd place and you can pick up an extra spot, you're moving from, what, if we're in heat race 2, you're moving from 10th place to 4th. I mean, that's a big jump to go to row 3 from row 5. So very important just to get every little bit of track position that you can from the heat races. And unfortunately, for people like Jeremy Castro, you just can't lose as much as he did, right? Starting 3rd and dropping all the way back to 7th. I mean, that's from row 5 down to, I mean, like row 20.
I mean, it really can, and that's one thing that a lot of these guys are no doubt. It's going to be weighing on everybody here when you try to keep yourself kind of tucked up and in the fray, and that's going to be something more that's going to be more critical when we get down to the round to main event time, with the fact that they are, of course, monitoring, as I mentioned back at Lime Rock Park, some potential unsafe rejoins, and in fact, it's part of that reason why Joseph Bell no longer racing among us. That's one of the big stories entering tonight. Joseph Bell, one of the guys I was looking to have himself with a half-decent run for the championship here, did find himself being ejected from league competition earlier in this week. But apart from that, it is Austin Tucker to take the heat race win as the rest of these guys start to funnel their way across start-finish.
Yeah, pretty tame second heat race here after the really exciting first one. So not too surprised, you know, it's just 10 cars. If they get a little spread out, not really much you can expect in only 3 laps for somebody to, you know, kind of run down a gap. So not too crazy of a heat race, but we still got 2 more left on offering. And again, I mean, the main event, whenever we get down to it with 40 cars, just turns into such a crazy show.
for Subin and Koffer, the two drivers that did not make the start over in the second heat race of the afternoon. And as this guy's getting set to roll off, all ready for heat race number 3, we'll get to this third starting grid here in this one. It is Eric Ronenberg from Matthew DeShanis on the front row, Josh Freed, Ron Wolf, Kyle Smith, Sean Bradley, Darren Tanner Klein, and Jonathan Lane take up the rear for heat race number 3.
Well, if he chooses not to drop to the back of the pack, my favorite here is Eric Ronenberg. We saw just how fast he was last week coming from the back to the front. I believe he finished with the top 3 finish. So I expect Ronenberg to have a really good showing here unless he just wants to start at the back again.
Pace cars into pit row. We work our way out of these final corners and across our finish. Green flag back up and in the air. We're racing for the third heat race of the evening. Starting off lap 1 of 3 as we hightail it side by side each down and in towards turn number 1.
Man, Josh Freed all over that inside curb, able to get to the inside of second place Matthew DeShanis, but DeShanis actually has such a good run that he's going to pull to the outside of Ronenberg going down into turn number 2. Can he hold that outside? It hasn't been too fruitful so far through the first 2 heat races as Ronenberg kind of edges him out wide through the center of the corner and doesn't really give him the exit that he needs. But now Ronenberg's under fire for Freed, but Freed goes spinning. DeShanis almost goes spinning, but he saves it. Now they're side by side for second.
Josh Reed spins it off and into the grass. Eric Ronenberg trying to maintain his run up in the race lead while you got Ron Wolf and Sean Bradley side by side for second just behind. And here comes Matthew DeShanis trying to make his hat up and put himself into the podium contention here for the third heat race on the evening. Freed rejoins without any incident while the battle rages on for the number 2 spot in the Flying Donut Ford Mustang 00. Trying to apply that pressure right up there to that number 119 of Wolf.
Yeah, big winner on that restart on the start here of the third heat race. Ron Wolf jumped from 4th to 2nd. That's a couple of valuable positions for the final race here, or going down into the main event anyway. And he's holding on to that second position pretty good from Bradley, but I really have to worry about DeShanis. Like, can he make up those positions that he lost whenever he got loose coming out of those corners? I don't know. He's kind of falling off the back end of Bradley a little bit going down into the final section.
DeShanis still going to be looking to try to reel these guys in as he will work his way up and around turn number 13 and back around to start finish. And now got a run here on Sean Bradley, this time by down the front stretch. Makes that little peek to the left. Can't go for it though. He thought about it though, so it's not going to be long before we really see DeShanis really put on the pressure here. And I think go for that attack. Ronenberg way off the track up the road. And it looks like he might get himself sorted. We've got one car spinning off in the background. That's going to be Darren Bai that goes into the tire barriers as meanwhile up the road, Eric Ronenberg gets himself back onto the racetrack. And we continue to work our way through the keyhole.
And DeShanis was able to take P3 from Bradley there going into the second corner. Really good a move going down the straightaway and then holding that bottom line all the way through the second corner there. Ronenberg is really just playing whack-a-mole with the cones on the inside every time that he's got an opportunity on the 2 main straights. But man, they're still fighting hard for that third place position. Bradley's trying to look to the outside, going down into the chicane. Not really the preferred groove, and he goes really, really wide going in. Might get tapped just a little bit from Smith, but they're able to keep it off of each other, and Bradley holds on to the P4 spot.
Great move there to hang on to 4th as DeShanis works his way up and clears for the 3rd spot. Halfway through heat race number 3 now. 3 of 4 as we keep marching onwards. And DeShanis, you see, and stemming that back end out. These back ends can get very, very light when you work up and over the hill. And it doesn't help the fact as well that remember with these fierce fuel tank limitations these guys have, that back end is extra loud of these cars. Not something that's ideal when you have so many corners on a circuit that you're turning up over the crest of a hill.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen them get so loose over all of these corners that have a hill in them. I mean, every single one we're seeing people kick out their back end coming out of the corner. All the slow corners, whenever they're having to get hard on the throttle coming out with a lot of wheel input, they are just really kicking that back end out. And it is going to make for some really, really good racing here towards the end of the night whenever we get to the main event with all 40 cars out here. And I mean, I just cannot wait to see it. But man, our third heat here is kind of spread out a little bit. No super hard battles. 4th place is kind of close. Looking at Smith and Bradley. Smith trying to work the outside, but kind of falls back in line behind Bradley going through the second corner. Gets a little bit straighter of an exit than Bradley. He's going to have a good toe down the second straightaway, but we're going to see if he gets a big enough run going down into the chicane.
And he's not the only one. Remember, you got that battle as well for the number 2 spot. Ron Wolf trying to keep Matthew DeShanis at bay as we work our way down around to turn number 4. And time, again, continuing to tick away as the clock has expired. We're working that final lap in your third heat race of the evening. Ronenberg from Wolf of the Shannis. Look out as Ronenberg kicking the back end out. That nearly cost himself the heat win.
That was so close for Ronenberg coming over the crest of that hill. Just got crazy, crazy loose. Man, he's loose again going into the downhill section here. Cutting back for the double right, trying to go back uphill, and he's loose again. He's spinning it out, coming over the hill, and that's going to give the race lead to Ron Wolf with DeShaney's right on his back bumper.
Ronenberg throws it away over here in heat race number 3. Give it up for Ron Wolf working into the final couple of corners down for turn 12. And it's looking like, whoa, DeShannis tried to throw it in. Couldn't get there, though. Ron Wolf picks up the win in heat race number 3.
Great showing from Wolf. He really took advantage of, the lap 1 incidents where 2 people got really loose. We had one guy spin, and Bradley just DeShannis just fell a little bit further back the pack, and DeShannis just couldn't pass him back. And then, obviously, another mistake there from Eric Ronenberg coming over the crest, just getting loose a couple times, and just had a little bit of an accident and gave the race win to Ron Wolf. So big winner from him, coming from 4th to 1st. I mean, that jumps him all the way up to the P3 starting position.
And Ronenberg decided to take that last first challenge as well. He will deliberately drop all the way to the tail end of the field. So here are the finishing results for heat race number 3 coming up on your screens here with Wolf, DeShannis, Bradley, Smith, Lane, Freed, Klein, By, and Ronenberg to wrap out the field. We march our way through to pick it up for the final heat race here of the afternoon, where Aaron Thacker will take it up for the pole position. Chris Bry will bring it up in 2nd. Corey Barrett is in 3rd for Serial Team 6. Carson Catlin is in 4th with Tyler Carlton in 5th. Greg Beckman is 6th with Bear Morton in 7th, making his series debut, trying to see if he can't have himself with a good opening. Mark Bellew going to be back in the number 8 spot, and Jordan Babcock brings it up in 9th, one of the few cars not opting to qualify over here in your race tonight.
All right, 4th and final heat race. We're going to see who's going to start in that 2nd row, who's going to get the race win, and heat race number 4 going to be able to start up towards the front. Aaron Thacker starting on pole in this heat. Probably one of the quickest guys in the field if I had to lay my money on it. We've seen him up front in a lot of the races so far, just really challenging in the top 5. So Aaron Thacker is probably my favorite in this heat race. But from what we've seen, especially in the 1st and 3rd heat race, I mean, there's just so much kind of carnage or mistakes that even the fast guys were making. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Thacker got a little loose coming over one of those humps coming out of the corners and spins it out and maybe gives the win to Chris Bright or Corey Barrett.
Your field working its way on the exit of Thunder Valley as we will fire back around the front straightaway for what could be the final heat race here of the night. We'll see if we get a 5th one, but I do believe it is only going to be 4 heat races here in this one, as Aaron Thacker will work his way around the final corner. Green flag is up in the air for what could be the last time before we go to main event racing at Mid-Ohio.
Aaron Thacker got a really good jump on the start, probably the best start we saw from a leader here so far. Going down into turn 1, wide berth, making sure he doesn't hit that inside curb. Chris Bright got a decent run, but had to get out of it just a little bit. Coming out the corner, man, a little bit of contact going back towards the back of the pack. That's Carlton off the racetrack, but he's going to be able to save it. Only dropped down to about 7th place. Not too bad. Going to probably lose another spot down to 8th. On Babcock, because Babcock sends it in deep from 8th place and actually gets to the inside of, that's Beckman there for 6th.
Oh, and Bellew went for the send as well, and that's going to result in him spinning the In-N-Out Burger number 11 around, as meanwhile, just up the road, Greg Beckman trying to get around Jordan Babcock here. This is the battle for 6th spot here as everything kicking off in heat race number 4. It'll be a huge launch to the inside line. The Flying Donut Motorsports machine will... Can he get clear? Yes, just barely as Babcock pushes too wide at turn number 4.
Good move there from Beckman. Couple of good moves off of him from the start. Moving back up to the 6th place position. As we look up towards the front, Aaron Thacker has, he's holding a stable gap over Chris Bright and Corey Barrett, but he hasn't pulled it up too big over the first lap. As the Serial Team 6 members in 2nd and 3rd are just trying to reel him in for the race lead for heat race number 3. But man, they're still pretty tight up front. 1 through 4 is all really nose to tail within 2.5 seconds. So we're going to see if anybody can kind of mount a charge on Aaron Thacker here towards the last 2 laps.
1 lap down, 2 to go in heat race number 4. Thacker will lead that first lap to green in the final heat race here of the evening. Bright leads from Barrett, and then Morton brings it up in 4th. You got trouble for Greg Beckman towards the tail of the field. He has spun it around into the final corner. So here's what happened to Greg Beckman. This is going to be working up and around. Sorry, this is a little bit prior. This is the incident here, as I believe he will have just lost the back end of that machine coming around through turn 12.
Here again, look at it down into the braking zone. Really just kind of loses the back end. Not much to it, just maybe a little bit of wheel hop. Kind of got a lot of the weight towards the front wheels, and that back end just stepped around whenever he had too much input into it. So unfortunate for him, but it is what it is in the heat race. At least you make that mistake here as we watch another replay. Another car going around turn 1. I can't quite tell who that is, but kind of unfortunate. I believe that was Morton going around on the exit of turn number 1.
It was Bear Morton, and the inside curbing there for turn 1, it is raised, right, to try to separate the pit exit lane from the main racetrack. He got 2 wheels over that curb, and the 2 left sides were on the wrong end of that curb, so he has spun himself out with that mistake as Backer continues to stretch his legs for the heat race lead, out by 1.7 now.
Yeah, you can make that work in turn 1 if you hit it just right, but we've seen it a couple times. You'll hit that and just the back end gets unsettled going through the throttle up portion of the corner, and I don't know if you're on the throttle whenever your rear wheels hit the ground, it just seems to kind of upset the back end of the car and rip that thing around. So unfortunately, we've seen a couple of those mistakes. I'm sure that that's not going to be the last bit of those that we see coming out of turn number 1 on the rest of the night either.
Further behind, Jordan Babcock and Tyler Carlton still locked in combat, nose to tail as you work our way around through turn numbers 3 and 4, not 3 and 4, excuse me, 12 and 13. I got over racing on the line. Just came off of a short track race that lasted 186 laps yesterday night. Check out the Omaha Rolex 50 Series. They had a good run last night. And Babcock and Carlton still nose to tail as we'll fight it out for that final spot inside the top 5 on the final lap of heat race number 4.
We've mentioned it before, every position matters. If Carlton can pick up this spot from Babcock here, P5, that's another 4 positions on the starting grid. So we're going to see going down into turn number 2, heavy braking zone. He really is late on the brakes trying to bridge that gap as far as he can, but man, Babcock really goes kind of wide to the exit of that corner. Might give Carlton a chance down this second straightaway.
Working down and around out of the keyhole and back down around to turn number 4, the closest battle we've got so far up on the race course as the clock expires on heat race number 4. And whoa, the lunge for Carlton trying to launch it into turn 4, but it wasn't able to get around it. That's compromised his line for 5.
Yeah, it has, but he hasn't lost too much time as they come through the right-hander of 6, just trying to get back on the back bumper of Babcock, going through our double right down here, downhill. Really difficult corner to get that right, braking on the downhill section, and then you whip it back uphill on the throttle, trying not to let that back end step out. Wow, Babcock had a really good line through there, wasn't able to give Carlton the advantage, but here we look, Aaron Facker coming through the last couple of corners, turns 3 and 4 for Aaron Facker coming out, and he's going to win heat race number 4.
Facker takes the win in heat race number 4. Chris Bry brings it up in second with Corey Barrett in third. Carson Catlin will be in the number 4 spot with Jordan Babcock in 5th. Tyler Carlton brings it home in 6th. Greg Beckman will be back in 7th spot with Bear Morton coming home in 8th, and that will just leave Mark Bellew, who will work his way out of turn number 13 and cross the start-finish stretch in that 9th position here. And I believe that will do it then for heat racing action here tonight. And in fact, it will. It's time to get this party started for main event action here in this one. And this is how it all lines up. Brian LeBlanc overall starts on the pole. Austin Tucker will be back in the number 2 spot, with the likes then of Ron Wolf to be back in 3rd. Aaron Facker will bring it up in 4th. You've got Chris Hannigan in 5th, Tyler Augustino in 6th, Matthew DeShendis is in 7th, with Chris Bright in 8th, Gabriel Cillian is 9th, with Brooks Blazin in 10th. Sean Bradley and Corey Barry wrap out row number 6. Moving on down through your field here tonight, as it is going to be the likes of Mateo Dupuis in 13th, Tom McDowell in 14th, Kyle Smith is 15th, with Carson Catlin in 16th, Blake Gamble 17th, Alan Kameyer in 18th, Jonathan is 19th. Jordan Babcock rounds out the top 20. From there, we've got Evan Campbell, Graham Jordan, Josh Freed, Tyler Carlton, Jason L., Jeremy Castro, Tanner Klein, Greg Beckman, Ethan Kahn, Harry Haskin, Darren Bai, Blair Morton, Adam Milhot, Matt Verstupin, Eric Ronenberg, Mark Bellew, and then way at the back of the field, Giovanni Romano and Alex Coffin. Not making starts in the heat races is going to be rounding out your field here tonight. So that is it. All drivers are gridded on up. We're ready to go racing. Critically, though, Babcock, the number 2 starter, not making the call to the starting grid. He'll start this race on pit road. Alex Coffin and Austin Tucker also not starting this race.
Very interesting to see a couple of these guys decide to start from the pits, but as we come through here, I might just refer to this as oval 3 and 4 for the entirety of the night, but actually 12 and 13. We're going to see Brian LeBlanc take the race lead as the pace car pulls off.
Pace cars in a pit road. We're happy that you joined us here on a Wednesday night. It is green flag racing action from the main event in the beer league as we hightail it down and towards turn number 1. 55 minutes of action is now underway. One car's gone off or even make it around to the start-finish stretch. Rejoins without much of an incident, while the rest of this field hightails it down towards turn number 1.
Brian LeBlanc got a pretty good jump there. Aaron Thacker was able to move from third to second. Just kind of following through on Brian LeBlanc here coming through the second corner, but man, he's all over his back bumper coming out, but LeBlanc gets a pretty decent run as they're pretty tight towards the back of the pack, man. Bright is really under fire here from Clayton and Barrett for the 7th place position. That's one teammate, one non-teammate. We see 2 serial team 6 cars going down the second straightaway, going to the first chicane down here, turn number 4, turn number 5. See who comes out on the other end at the best.
Chris Hannigan dives it down the inside of Augustino, picks up the number 3 spot, while way out wide is going to be Ron Wolf and Barrett Mortensen. Corey Barrett off the racetrack, back at turn 4, and he is now stopped, and he is stuck. Barrett Mortensen stuck in the grass, can't get up the hill. That could be some of these new grass physics at play there, as he is going to tumble all the way down the field. He's got to reverse onto the racetrack. Can't do that, though, with the whole field thundering by him.
I'm just glad to see a good rejoin. I mean, finally in the league we see good rejoins, but man, we got more accidents towards the back. Con Klein and Barrett is still off in the grass, but man, a couple of instances. We see Jason L now, and then the, I can't quite tell who that other car was, but man, so many cars off the racetrack, it's so hard to keep track of.
Spoke too soon, apparently. Is this what happened to Jason L. working his way up and over the hill? Oh, he's just lost the back end, and whoa, right behind. There you saw Corey Barrett and more being punted off the track, and man, there was a whole host of incidents that went wrong here. Here's Matt Verstappen being spun sideways in the RB's Mustang as he was just trying to avoid all of this, man. There you see the 2 machine going around in the background. They were 3 wide. Crawford went down the inside, or that's not Crawford, excuse me. And there goes Verstappen being punted sideways, and that's caused a bit of a melee there. Then further up the road, sorry, this is a bit already further down off the track. Trying to find what happened to Greg Beckman here, as he and Tanner Klein got into it apparently a bit. Man, there's a lot that went down here in the early running in this one, apparently. And for Klein, I think he just kind of got a bad deal.
There are a couple guys that were just really unfortunate watching through those replays. I mean, Mac Verstappen had absolutely nothing to do with that accident. He was just on the outside, and all of a sudden, he gets thrown 3 wide going into the right-hander of turn number 6 and just kind of got taken out. So unfortunate to see that from a couple of these guys as we watch Castro and Catlin swap positions here for the 13th place position. Catlin tries to come back on the outside, not quite able to make it work as Castro's going to take that spot away from him, and they go down the hill, down into turn number 6.
No major pileups, which is a big surprise considering the calamities that we saw at Lime Rock Park as well as at Mount Panorama a couple of weeks ago. So we got a lot of drivers now that are looking to make good runs. Blake Gambrell is off track somewhere. Rejoins back on way back now in the 22nd spot, and Mac Verstappen off the road again, and he has been spun sideways into one of the access roads. So Verstappen with some more problems on the racetrack, and this is what happened to Mac. He got punted up from behind by the In-N-Out Burger machine.
Man, that's the same car that kind of threw it 3 wide last minute that took out Verstappen earlier. Yeah, that's unfortunate for Verstappen.
Oh, Cal Thacker going around. He did the Morton mistake, cooked it on the sausage curbs there and spun it around.
Only going to lose a handful of positions, but more importantly, he loses a ton of time to our race leader. I mean, he's over 10 seconds off the race lead as he was just absolutely hounding him lap after lap. Looked like he was maybe going to get that move done pretty soon, but now we look at Bradley going past Maddle for 8th place. Just, little bit of accidents everywhere, people making mistake left and right, and we're only about 5 minutes into this event, and we are just seeing mistake after mistake.
Not terribly surprised. We're used to seeing the attrition build up early on, and it kind of tapers off as the event moves along. Brooks Clayton. Whoop. Oh, Hannigan off into China Beach, way into the kitty litter at the far end of the racetrack. He'll rejoin. Now, was that in too deep, or has he had help?
He just missed his braking point.
Wow.
I didn't even know how to react to that. I looked like he almost intentionally did it. I felt like we were back in the heat races where some of these guys just kind of intentionally make mistakes just to start at the back of the pack. But man, Hannigan just overcooked the absolute heck out of that corner. Only falls back to 6th place though. Not quite as bad of a mistake as we saw Aaron Thacker make, who was challenging for the lead. It's back to 11th.
Tom Adol fighting that with Chris Bright here. This is for 8th spot as we work our way out of Thunder Valley into the final sections of corners here. Already there's been a whole host of drivers that have been having some troubles in their own right. Barrett Morton again being spun around. This time it's the middle of the track at Thunder Valley, and he is collected. I believe that's Jordan L. just up the road as well. So, sorry, no, that's Graham Jordan that's been collected by Bear Morton. So Morton having an unfortunate incident, and this is how this went down for the number 9. He's got Eric Ronenberg right behind. And is this a tip or is this over the hill? Oh, a bit of both.
Oh, that's a tough bit of contact to kind of rear end somebody coming over the hill right there. I mean, Morton was maybe a little slow on the apex, but I mean, he's got every right to that corner, so unfortunate to see him get taken out like that. But hopefully he can recover as, you know, we're looking back up towards the front half of the field. We're looking at Jason, or sorry, not Jason L.
Blake Gambrill.
I believe this is Blake Gambrill right in front. Oh, he was right in front of Jason L. I don't know quite what all that was about, but
he got loose on the grass and had to jam on the vine, just give him a spin in, and then unfortunately that brought him to a stop on the racetrack.
God bless. I mean, just weird mistakes, man. This is just such a weird racetrack where those mistakes. Oh man, Hannigan just about got taken out by Clayton going through turn number 5. Clayton went in really, really deep. Kind of shows his nose again going into 6, but he's going to go deep again and just kind of have to follow in Hannigan's footsteps here through the final sector of the racetrack. But man, people are just going off track, driving in deep, making heavy contact with a couple other drivers, and it's. I mean, there's kind of a surprising amount of attrition. I didn't expect it to be that heavy at a very traditional road course that really isn't, I don't know, in my mind, too treacherous, especially because we've been to Mount Panorama in week number 2 and Lime Rock with both chicanes last week. I felt like both of those would be a little bit more attrition based, and I mean, Panorama was, but this is surprisingly more attrition than I would have expected.
Well, it is a difficult racetrack. It's deceptively quick at that. It's not an easy racetrack by any stretch of the means, and it's one that these guys are finding out the hard way. You cannot underestimate it at all. And I think overall, things are going pretty well. We're about spread about through 2/3 of the racetrack at this point in time. You see the Reese's Puffs machine. Oh, clipped that curb again and got up and nearly ran off the track. Castro and Dupuis going after it as well. Blake Gambrill going off track again near the final couple of corners, but here comes Jeremy Castro. Tried for the inside into the keyhole that time, but there was no room to get to the inside of Gabriel Asilia.
Yeah, he just about made that move work. Maybe if he didn't get a little bit wide coming off the exit of number 1, he could have gotten that toe all the way down the second straightaway and been able to make a move down into turn number 2, but just couldn't make it work. And now he's falling off the back bumper of him just a little bit as we, we see Aaron Facker coming through there right in front in 10th, still trying to rebound from his mistake. And then we go back, looking back towards the 18th place position as we look at Gambrill. And man, a little bit of a gaggle of cars right here. 4 cars all racing for the, what is this, the 16th place position roughly, 17th place position, going down into turn 4, turn 5, going down the hill, down towards turn number 6. We're looking at Gambrill trying to make a move on lane, but he's also having to go really defensive from Catlin and Ronenberg.
Yeah, Evan Campbell at the moment trying to keep it up behind Jonathan Lane. He's got the likes of Catlin and Moore, Ronenberg and Romano tucked into the fray just behind as well. All of them working over the crest of the hill down towards Thunder Valley, and you see the 2 guys in front of this trio going to start to split away. Carson Catlin under heavy fire by Ronenberg here as Eric Ronenberg trying to look around the high side, going to go for an over-under here into turn 12. Can he get that cut back to the inside of 13 this time by? Answer is, oh, he's off the track. He went down too hard.
That's going to give another spot to Romano right there. We saw him cut to the inside just to avoid Ronenberg, make sure he doesn't come back on the track. But man, Facker's trying to go back up the field as he started second, like we mentioned earlier, and fell back towards the back. He's going to pick up his position to 9th, and we go back to Asilan losing that spot to Castro. We saw Castro try to make that move into turn 2 last time. Wasn't able to get late enough on the brakes, but man, he makes it stick really well there for the 11th place position that time around.
This field having itself with a good drive so far. Whoa, Graham Jordan up on his side out of turn number 1. So a huge crash for Jordan's machine as he is going to be stranded on his side, and he's going to be forced to take the tow back to pit road. We'll get a look on what happened here to Jordan, and you know what? We'll get a look at what happened to Carson Catlin as well, as Catlin himself had a big off-road excursion over here coming around through turn number 1. He went way off the circuit at that opening corner. Then this is what happened to Graham Jordan a few seconds later. Again, lost it on the curbing. And, oh, wow, he has struck the one place where they filled the tire barriers with concrete instead of water.
I mean, that was such an awkward accident for him to go like front end over back end like that coming off the wall, but super unfortunate for him to have to actually tow, man. I mean, poor Barrett. I mean, he was running a decent race and just, a little bit loose coming out of the corner. Going to ruin it for you if you get stuck, side over side like that. I mean, with the damage not being enabled, most of the time you can drive away from those incidents and not have a problem, but, the only thing that can really put you out of a race is if you end up on your lid, and unfortunately for him, that's what happened.
Take a look at Romano getting up and around Kyle Smith. Evan Campbell and Eric Ronenberg also side by side just behind as we work our way back to turn 1. And Ronenberg and the 40-ounce Force Machine's really tempting fate with the curve there. A lot of drivers have been doing that. They have not been respecting that turn 1 curve at all. It's there so you don't spin it out, or so you don't cut it over into the pit exit road. And a lot of drivers have found it the hard way exactly where that limit is.
No kidding. I mean, I haven't. That was a weird one because I've seen people just hit it wrong, but he straddled the curb the entire way around the corner. So that was a really strange one just to see him have 2 tires on the opposite side of the curb. Luckily, he doesn't get like a pit road penalty for that or anything. That's not. I think that's after the actual pit exit. So lucky for him, that's not a problem. But man, Romano is really picking his way through the field as we see Dupuis go off on the same corner. We were just looking at Romano. That's the exit at turn number 4. We're going to have to get a look at and see what happened to him here coming off the corner. Man, he's in a Cannabis Racing Machine sandwich and just gets spun off the front bumper going through turn 4, hard into the inside wall.
Not sure which one of the Cannabis Racing cars it was that was with him, but it was one of the gold ones. Romano setting up a pass on Alan Kemmeyer here. Speaking of Cannabis Racing, the pinkish, purplish, magenta, I guess? The magenta-colored Cannabis car going to be passed out by Ronenberg, and now here comes Lane and Moore, all hungry to chomp at the bit and go for the next position. This battle for about 50th on back really has not gone far, and the caution flag is out for the first time tonight. For those that are unaware, random yellow flags are thrown anywhere outside of the first 5 minutes or the last 10. There's a chance at 2 they're randomly picked by a bot, and there's a 75% chance we will get any one of these yellow flags. We just rolled the dice on that one here in this one, so caution flag's out and the field is neutralized.
This is an interesting one because I feel like a lot of people, a lot of people are going to come down pit road to fill up the tank with gas just to, make sure they have to take as little as possible on their second pit stop, but absolutely nobody can make it on fuel from here. So it's just going to be a strategy play to see if they want to shorten up their second pit stop here or if they're more interested in the track position right now. So I could see a couple guys up front staying out just to hold on to that track position and maybe just try to pull that gap back out for the either second caution or the second pit stop that'll end up being under green. But I expect to see most of the field come down and fill it up with gas just to make sure that they can make it as far as possible and make sure that they don't have to fill up the tank as much on the second stop.
I think that's reasonable, and I think that's what we could see a lot of these guys opting to do here, but they have to make it around one more time before they can come down to pit road, as we still have not caught the tail end of the pacing line. Out of the 38 cars that were scheduled to start this race, 37 are on the racetrack and 36 are on the lead lap. Graham Jordan, of course, with him having to take that tow down to pit road, is the sole car at the moment that is sitting 1 lap down. It's a big shame, I think, for Jordan. He should be able to get the wave around here this time by, and we'll catch the Porsche safety car in the run down towards turn 2 at the keyhole.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good break for Graham Jordan, though. He's back on the racetrack, only 1 lap down, so not too bad. And he just gets the caution at a really early time so that he can have as much time as possible to work his way back through the field. So honestly, really, really fortunate timing on that caution from Graham Jordan, being able to get his wave around here on this or before the restart.
Brian LeBlanc has led this race from the start. He will continue to lead as we are under caution flag number 1. We're going to take a quick jump back. You're watching the Beer League race number 4 in Mid-Ohio on Green Flag TV. working around through Thunder Valley for the final time as Brian LeBlanc sits in line behind the Iverson safety car. The lights are out. We are going green flag racing once again, this time by with 35 minutes remaining on the clock. A very split call. 19th on back while pitted, 18th on up, remain on the racetrack. I think gambling on a second caution. Here we go as the pace car pulls into pit road. Green flag is back in the air.
Brian LeBlanc gets a pretty good jump on DeShannon, and Hannigan's going to look to the inside, going down into turn number 1 as they go down the front stretch. Hannigan's all the way alongside, going down to the corner. Let's see if he avoids that curve on the inside. Oh, man, he just about clobbered it, but he just had a little bit of wheel movement to the right just to make sure that he misses it. DeShannon's gave him plenty of room coming off the corner, and he takes the P2 spot going down into turn number 2.
Matthew DeShannon is looking to battle this one back, though, up into the keyhole, and just behind them, Jeremy Castro looking for the high side of Aaron Facker. No room. He'll again tuck that car right in line. How about Eric Ronenberg getting up and around the likes of Kyle Smith as we work our way through turn numbers 3 and 4. There's a lot of action going on here in this field at the moment, but up front, LeBlanc already stretching his legs back out with the race lead.
Yep, he's built himself a nice second gap as we're looking at Smith here trying to challenge Eric Ronenberg here for the 11th or 12th place position. But Ronenberg's actually looking to the inside of lane, going down to turn number 4, almost makes contact. He gets heavy on the brakes just to make sure he avoids. Now through turn number 5, going towards the downhill section, trying to get the overspeed on the car in front. That's Lane in the Budweiser machine. Oh man, he just about gets into the back bumper going into 6, and they're single file going through into the final sector of the racetrack.
Nothing between them as we work up and over the hill, back around towards turn number 9 as we fire underneath the Mid-Ohio PPG Bridge. This time around back through Thunder Valley. And you can tell this mid-pack here, this is where all the battling is going to be throughout the duration of this race. It's not going to go anywhere. Lane, Ronenberg, Smith, and Campbell have all been fighting their way by the same groupings of drivers here constantly over and over and over again, picking them off one at a time. At that time by Jonathan Lane gets a bit crossed up in turn 12. That gives the door for Eric Ronenberg, and he's going to look to kick it open as they work the front straightaway under the Cooper Tires bridge down to turn 1.
Ronenberg couldn't quite make it work going down into turn 1 if he can get a good exit of the corner. Oh man, it looks like Lane goes just a little bit wide, gets a little bit of the grass, and Ronenberg's going to be gifted the position. It looks like going down the second straightaway, going down towards turn number 2. He's able to clear Lane for the P12 or P11 spot, my bad. Now he sets his sights up towards Alan Kameyer.
Towards the front of the field, Brian LeBlanc has been steadily caught by Chris Hannigan. Now Hannigan looking to have this race laid down towards turn number 4. Can he get onto the binders? Coming down towards the tightest corner of the racetrack. Tries to go for the over-under. Wasn't able to get it in 4. Can he go for the crossover in 5, though? No, he can't. LeBlanc covers him off. So the fight for the lead picking up as well. And that is going to steadily allow for Matthew DeShannon to start to pull back into the mix.
Man, Hannigan actually got to his outside going through turn number 6, or on the inside, but then to the outside for the next corner, but just wasn't able to hold it. Didn't have enough overlap there going through the corner. But man, they go down the downhill section into the final sector, and Hannigan is just all over his back bumper, but don't count out DeShannon and don't count out Aaron Thacker.
Time continuing to slip away. 32 minutes remain on the clock, but that is still over a half distance over here in this race. And now LeBlanc, Hannigan, DeShannon, and Thacker all under a blanket, all fighting it out for the race lead here in this one. Trouble for Jonathan Lane off the racetrack in the final corner, and he is going to be way out wide. He'll slip from 11th and fall all the way back to 16th, able to rejoin without losing too much momentum. As a bit further up the road, here comes Kyle Smith trying to look to the inside of Kameyer.
Kyle Smith looking to the inside of Kameyer for P11, coming off of turn number 1. See who gets a better run. Kameyer gets a little bit of the grass and just about lost a little bit of time there, but I don't think that it's going to be quiet enough for Smith to be able to have a challenge in the position. If we're looking back at Lane, he's under fire from Agostino on the inside. Agostino pitted. He's trying to make up as much spots as he can before another caution comes out or before the second pit stop. But man, he just gets his nose cut off by Lane coming out of the corner.
Couple of cars kicking the back end out as we exit the keyhole. Further up front, DeShannon is attacking under fire, by Aaron Thacker here as he had to go defensive down and towards turn number 4. And Thacker able to just keep it in line with that number 4 spot, while Brian LeBlanc has not been able to break away at all from Hannigan. Hannigan's looking to apply the pressure, and he could be a thorn in LeBlanc's side all the way through until we get that second yellow. If we get that second yellow, we did go caution-free at Lime Rock Park last week. Possibility we could have that here again today, or at least from this point on.
We could only have the one caution, but Hannigan's looking to the inside of Brown LeBlanc for the race lead. They make contact going into the final sector. Both of them spin off the racetrack. They're running 1-2, and they're both going to drop throughout the field. They're plummeting down the race order, down into the bottom half of the top 10 for both of them. Both going to get back on the racetrack in the same formation that they had it, but man, they just lost a ton of time to our new race leader of Matthew Deschantis and Aaron Facker's all over him going into turn 1.
And there's what happened. The two leaders getting tipped around and sideways through turn 11, working around to turn 12. We'll get another look at this one back here as this is again going to be just an unfortunate scenario for both the top two runners as you see them both spinning around. Luckily, they both kept it out of the wall, which I think helped them not lose too much time on the racetrack. Corey Barrett, by the way, has gone off the racetrack, and he is this one he was off for a while that time by. So, whoa, again, turn 12 has been Corey Barrett's nemesis all day today, and is looking like that's going to continue. Meanwhile, Deschantis under 5 for Factor for the race lead down to turn 4.
Facker on the outside, able to hold it around the outside just about, but he has to get off of it or else he was going to go through the grass. Deschantis is going to hold on to the race lead for now, but don't look now, but Giovanni Romano from the 37th place starting position on the grid is running our two race leaders down, and with them battling so heavily and the other two kind of getting tangled with each other, it's really letting Giovanni Romano eke his way into the race lead, or the battle for the race lead.
Jason L has been spun sideways on the exit of turn 4 and 5, and he is now off the racetrack. So L having a big host of problems. He's going to be forced to drop all the way to the tail of the field. Watch out, still got a car coming around. Now you can go and rejoin. So he's going to slip all the way further back. Ronenberg and Asilian side by side. They make contact. Asilian spins it around at turn 12.
It really looked like Asilian just kind of missed the apex of that corner and really slid it out wide. I don't really think that Ronenberg did anything wrong there. As we're looking back at Jason L going through 4 and 5. We're going to see what happened to him going up the crest. Coming out of turn 5. Oh, man. Just kind of got a car put on his inside, and he kind of just chopped his nose off. I think the car behind was always going for that move, and he made it pretty obvious. So, but still, unfortunate for Jason L. Good job not making it worse by not making a crazy rejoin. But, man, another bit of contact behind him is Lane. Oh, Lane just kind of turned in on the driver on his inside, too, going down into 6 right after the Jason L. incident.
And that was Lane and Bradley going around, and this was the only one. We continue to rack up the incidents as Carson Catlin, Ethan Kahn, and Baron Morton all get involved in a big incident here, coming around through turns 12 and 13 as, whoa, swings it out wide. He's going to spin across the track right into the path of Baron Morton. And then he saw Ethan Kahn get involved as well. And then immediately after that, Mac Verstappen having problems. So we are just racking these incidents up, and he's not the only one. We'll take a look at Jordan Babcock coming on up next, as there you see Verstappen lose it over the top of the hill, and he just goes full slam into the barriers in the Arby's machine.
That's a hard hit there for Mac Verstappen, but oh man, big gaggle here in the final sector. Oh my goodness. That was just about a parking lot. We almost saw a repeat of Mount Panorama and Lime Rock there, but everybody was able to keep it going. But we did see a change for the race lead back and forth under those caution-ish, wrecking replays. Deschantis had lost the lead to Facker going down into turn number 4, but then Facker just kind of overdrove the heck out of the corner, going down into 4 like we saw him do the lap before whenever he was trying to take the lead, and gifted it right back and gifted P2 to Giovanni Romano.
So this is a look of that replay here, working in towards the final couple of corners here. This is working back and around in towards turn 4, and there you see Facker goes in deep. Deschantis gets him set up, makes the crossover happen. We're side by side for the lead again, and now Romano making the charge of the race lead down into the keyhole. A host of drivers in the pit road: Castro, Ronenberg, Smith, Kemmeyer, Carlton. All racers that haven't pit yet are into pit road, so we got green flag stops kicking off as well in the midst of all of this chaos.
Deschantis did a great job going into that corner to defend. You know, he kept the inside line going into turn number 2 and just drove it in so deep and really didn't give Romano a chance on that corner. Now he's going defensive again, going down into turn number 4. Romano kind of breaks a little bit early, trying to go for that undercut move, trying to set him up for the next couple corners. But, you know, Deschantis is just in a really good position here where he can run a defensive line, and as long as he doesn't really give up the inside, Romano can't make a really good move through any of these kind of tight, slow corners. He might just have to wait again for the front stretch or going down into turn number 2. Those seem to be the best passing zones, but man, he's still all over Deschantis.
Jonathan Lane, you just saw stacked up the pit exit lane, and this is how it happened. It looked, he just pulls to a stop right in front of the pit exit lane. Oh, Ronenberg just barely avoided him, so I'm willing to bet that was some sort of hard ref failure, maybe a screen flash black, and that's why we saw him suddenly make that hard left-hand turn. Not even sure he realized where he was stopped at. Deschantis, Romano, and Facker also in the battle, and now DeShantis and Thacker will hit pit road. Giovanni Romano takes the race lead.
And all these guys should be able to make it to the end. We've had just about 30 minutes of racing so far. I mean, we did have a pretty lengthy caution period, so maybe they'd be cutting it close on fuel because they probably saved a good bit under the caution, but I'd be willing to bet they're probably good by about half a lap to a lap on gas. Pitting, the lap beforehand, we saw a lot of people come down. So I think most of these guys are going to be good on fuel, but it might be cutting it close for a couple of them. Is, like you mentioned, Romano getting back into the race lead here after starting all the way in the back. A couple of guys that had pitted, though, the gap to the guys behind are 15 seconds, but those are all guys that had pitted. So, if they can kind of flip the strategy in the right way, they could find their way back up there to Romano, but I just think Romano made the right strategy call of staying out under that caution and is now able to, oh man, we see contact again. Is that Crawford going, no, it's Bellew going around. Now a huge stack up through turn one. Eric Ronenberg having to slow down heavy. That's going to hurt his chances to kind of work his way through the field like he was trying to do. But man, we just had a couple major stack ups here recently.
Yeah, and that was just two cars going for the same piece of real estate down to the opening corner, and that allows for, again, another whole host of drivers to siphon their way through. Babcock, Smith, and I believe Bai as well, all going to work their way through this grouping here as we fire it around through the keyhole. Up the road, Blake Gambrill under fire by Brian LeBlanc as LeBlanc, fresh out of the pits, going to make that move now for the 16th position. Now the question is, can the guys we saw pit under the safety car, can they make it to the end? My money's on no, personally.
Oh, for sure not. They're probably 10 minutes to the short, so I don't think there's any chance, but we see Romano, the last of the guys who had not pitted under caution, who had not pitted at all, has finally come down pit road, probably for his one and only pit stop. I think he's definitely good on fuel, being able to stretch it out this far. And it's really just going to come down to how good was his lap compared to, who was it that he was battling? LeBlanc and, it wasn't Hannigan, it was Thacker. LeBlanc and Thacker, who had pitted the lap before, who had the better lap there? With them coming down pit road, we're going to have to see Romano coming out of pit road now. He's just now leaving his box, so maybe seeing Thacker and LeBlanc coming through here pretty soon.
Giovanni Romano will exit pit road. Aaron Thacker, you can see right there, tail end of the screen, will get up and around Romano. Wow, very slow out of an exit. What's going on with Romano here? Is he just going to get that car into gear? I don't think, as you heard him kind of struggling to get that car up to speed out of pit road, and that's going to cost him lose all the way back to Chris Hannigan now.
That was a very, very weird problem for Romano coming out of pit road, and that cost him a ton of time. I mean, wow, LeBlanc must have had a really terrible pit stop lap because he's still 5 seconds behind Romano after Romano had that mistake, and Thacker is 5 seconds ahead of Romano. So, I mean, Thacker did an absolutely amazing job compared to the other two, as we're now going to look on board with Romano to kind of see what happened.
Yeah, he couldn't shift. You hear that? He couldn't get the car in gear.
That's just strange. That's just so strange that he had that kind of issue coming out of pit road. I mean,
well,
Romano's proven himself to be one of the best drivers in the league, and I mean, he's been challenging for the race win, and coming from the back to the front like he did today. I mean, it's very impressive. So it's interesting to see him kind of make that kind of mistake.
Well, it's a very easy mistake to do, and I speak this as we see, first off, Ron Wolf making a move on Josh Freed here for the number 2 spot. But I've driven these cars extensively in the production car challenge over the few years I've been on iRacing, and it's an easy mistake to make. I mean, these cars in particular, they're very finicky with the shifter if you're using an actual clutch pedal, right? If you're using a clutch pedal and a shifter without any auto blip or clutch assists or shifting assists, it's shockingly difficult to get these cars into gear, and you have to kind of be very patient on gear shifts. You can't rush them at all like you can in the SCCA Spec Racer Ford, for example, or the Skip Barbers, or even the Lotus 79, you can just kind of bang it into gear and then get up and off and away. If you get it out of gear in these cars, you're in for a world of hurt because it is going to take forever to get it in line. I have not had a single time where I've missed a shift, and it's taken me anything less than 3 attempts to get it back in.
And even before that issue, I would be willing to bet Romano's on a H pattern. You're right. He's using the clutch for sure, as we see a replay of an accident here. Does a good job getting off the racetrack, just make sure he doesn't get anybody else involved. But going back to Romano, I would have been willing to bet he was on or using the clutch anyway and not using the auto shift mechanic or auto clutch. Because you can be a lot faster if you can master that clutch pedal and not have to use the auto shift.
Yes.
So I am very willing to bet that he is doing that, especially after the mistake. I mean, you're not going to make that mistake if you're on auto clutch at all. So unfortunate for Romano, but I think he's got the speed to get back up there. It's just Aaron Thacker was really, really quick, even towards the beginning of this, but he has started to kind of cut into Thacker's advantage just a little bit. He came out of the pits 5 seconds back, and he's cut it down to 4.
And you can kind of tell which drivers he's not, which ones aren't. If you go on board with any one of these guys, you can hear whenever they shift up, the car pings off the rev limiter. That tells me they're using an auto shifter or at least an auto blip or an auto clutch, which will essentially makes it so iRacing will automatically work that section of the car. If you don't have, and keep in mind, nowadays in a lot of open wheel cars and a lot of road cars in general, a lot of that's done for you. You don't need a clutch pedal. You don't need to blip the throttle and all. You do if you're in GT1 or GT2 machinery, but not if you're in the GT4s. GT4s, touring cars, or basically any open wheel car on the service. These are really the exception, and in fact, I do believe that in terms of modern content that's not legacy in iRacing, these Mustangs are the last remaining closed wheel car that actually run on a full H pattern shifter. Before they had the MX-5s to work with them on that deal as well, but they've also moved to the sequential shifter in accordance with the Real World Series.
Yeah, so you just know that these things are probably the most difficult cars to get into gear on the service. So I guess you make a good point. Maybe it's not that crazy of a mistake, but I just would expect from somebody like Giovanni Romano, who is just so quick. It's just crazy to see him, out of all people, make that mistake. As he's going to the outside of Chris Hannigan, trying to limit the damage. If he can get by Chris as soon as possible, then he can really set his sights on Aaron Facker. But Chris is putting up a hell of a fight. Goes just a little bit wide through turn 5. Going to be able to hold that bottom through 6, trying to make it work. But Romano gets the run out of the outside of the corner and is able to clear Chris Hannigan for the 9th place position. But I believe this is really P2 in the running after everybody pits.
Great overtake there for Giovanni Romano to get up and around Chris Hannigan, as we will now march our way steadily onwards towards the end of this race. We've got less than 20 minutes to go. If this second caution is coming out, it would have to be within the next 9 minutes or within the next 6-7 laps, give or take. Otherwise, we'll be green from here to the end. You see Austin Tucker works his way down and into pit road as we steadily march around lap number 22 of the racetrack. Tucker, one of the last cars we were waiting on to pit, and in fact, he's one of the few guys that had to make a second stop as he pitted under the first cautions. This could be a good input as to where we could be seeing a lot of these guys that we just saw pit earlier funneling out.
Yeah, for sure. And a good rule of thumb here for Austin Tucker, he was about, I want to say 7 or 8 seconds clear of Romano, and Romano has just absolutely stormed by him. So I don't think that even the race leader of Tyler Agostino, who has 17 seconds on Romano, and Facker, I don't think that even he's going to be able to put up a fight, even with putting up less fuel and being able to take a shorter stop. So I don't think that it's going to work out for any of those guys that pit under the caution. So really good strategy play by the couple guys that, or for the 18 guys really, that stayed out on the first caution, just making sure they can keep their track position. It seems to be the right play call.
Bear Morton losing 2 positions down the backstretch there, lost out to Sean Bradley as well as Aaron Facker as we work around through the opening couple of corners, and a couple of drivers going off track. Tanner Klein and Darren Vine both going off at the same time here. And Klein having a bit of a salesman by himself, and Darren Vine just a few corners up the road. Exact same deal, up over the crest, just got loose and spun it off to the left-hand side. And then Corey Barrett having this problem where he came to a stop on the racetrack. And he has he looped the back end at 12? Yes, he has, up over the crest. Once again, how many times have we seen that today? And Evan Campbell now off the road as well, and Campbell still, in fact, off the road. Whoa, way in hot into China Beach, and this is what we feared, right? He might very well be stuck at the sand trap now with the new physics to slow these cars down.
Yeah, that was a very weird incident. He just got really, really hot, but oh yeah, he's still stuck down there. We're gonna see how good the new gravel is, how realistic. But I mean, I hope that it can let him out. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I'll give him that. That's pretty good. I'm glad that they added that though, because that would have been a major accident. He would have gotten probably gone head over heels flipping. But man, we got a tight race for the net race lead. Aaron Facker is under fire from Giovanni Romano going down into turn number 4.
Bit of bump traffic going on there. Now Romano pulls over to the left-hand side of the racetrack. Will go for the lunge down in towards turn number 4. Round the outside. He'll have the inside now for turn 5. He can hang on over the crest, and he can cut in for the apex at 6. And he'll do just that. Giovanni Romano, we believe, now through into the net race lead.
Great move from Romano, able to keep it around Facker's outside through turn number 4, giving him the preferred line through 5, and Facker was just a little bit wide, maybe gave just a little bit too wide of a berth to Romano going through that corner. and Romano was just able to slide right on through. So easy. I mean, what a move. I mean, he made it look easy. I know that was not an easy move, but man, what a great job from Giovanni Romano coming from the back of the pack to now the net race lead.
Tyler Agostino, Ron Wolf making their way into pit row. Matthew DeShanis, actually, I believe DeShanis is actually the net race leader, as he stopped the same laps as the other guys did in their battles with the top grouping, and well, he's way out in front now with the actual race lead.
I don't know how the heck I forgot about DeShanis. He was in that fight for the lead. My goodness, he's done an amazing job being able to jump all the way. I mean, he's got still another 2 seconds to Romano, but Romano is just closing in so quick. He's been the quickest guy out here tonight, so I'd be a little bit worried if I was DeShanis, but you know, Romano's got to fight his way through Chris Bright and a lap car in between both of them, but he does have, what, 15 minutes to do it, so it'll be interesting here to see if he can get it done, but man, he's putting in work, man. I mean, from 37th to net P2, I kind of feel bad that I forgot about DeShanis, though.
And Romano going to fall back to net P3 now as he got a bad run out of the keyhole, and that allowed, whoa, as I say, that factor goes in too hard, and now Chris Hannigan will sweep through and pick up that 5th position on the racetrack. Romano got in a horrible run coming around through turn number 2, and that allowed for Sean Bradley to get back by, and it almost allowed for Facker to get through as well. But luckily, again, for Romano, Facker running wide over at turn 4, and that's going to cost him a lot of time. Now Romano can just focus on getting around the guys that still have yet to pit.
Yeah, there's just a couple of them in front of him. Chris Bright has not pitted yet from the P4 position, and then he's got 2 lap cars in front of him also that he's got to work through. So maybe these guys will get out of his way, but as soon as I say that, he was kind of getting blocked going into the final sector as we see Kahn making a move on, I believe that's Kameyer here for the 23rd position, getting through in turn number 4. But Romano does make the pass on Bright, but they're actually side by side as they switch positions back.
And now Romano trying to get up to Sean Bradley here as Bright actually hit his way to pit row. That's why you see him tumbling down the timing order. Same story for Ronan Berg. Whoa, look out as Tanner Klein, I believe that was, having a major off at the tail end. In fact, it was Klein way off the road, deep in the pack. The driver currently running in that 34th position. And, well, this is what happened to Klein as he was all by himself coming through turn 1. And as he, let me guess, curb? Curb.
Oh, yeah. Big time curve coming through there. My goodness, just skidded that thing sideways, overcorrected hard to the outside, but, you know, he doesn't collect anybody else, so, you know, no harm, no foul, not too bad. But, man, Romano able to get back up into P2, passing Bradley there for the 2nd place position. Hannigan's going to try to follow him here through here pretty soon, but Romano has his sights set on the race leader, Matthew DeShanis. He is only 2.2 seconds back with 12.5 minutes remaining.
Other battles on the racetrack, looking to Austin Tucker and Carson Catlin here. They're about to go side by side down to turn 4 as well, as Tucker looks for the inside of turn 4. And Catlin going to inadvertently give it to him as he runs too deep into that 4th corner. Catlin going for the crossover into turn 5, and that's a beautiful bait and switch as Austin Tucker completely baited Carson Catlin into the switchback there.
Yeah, great move there. I mean, Austin Tucker kind of got unfortunate. He missed the start of the race, or he had some internet issues that kind of dropped him out, and he had to rejoin. Started way at the back of the pack and has worked his way all the way back up to 12th. So really good showing here from Austin Tucker to kind of be, I don't know, just kind of get screwed over by a bad internet issue and be able to, you know, have the presence of mind to be able to pick back through the field all the way up to P12. And he's got Harry Haskin right in front of him for 11th. Maybe he could get into the 10th position before this thing's over. But man, Romano is cutting into the race lead heavily. Since the last time we talked about him, it went from 2.2 to 1.1 at the race, or at the start-finish line. Now down to 0.9 going through turn number 2. I mean, Romano has so much speed here compared to DeShanis, but DeShanis does have the track position. We saw him go defensive really heavily earlier. If he can just hold on to that, and it's a long time, right? 12 minutes is a long, long time to go defensive on somebody like Giovanni Romano, who's come from the 37th place position, but he does have that track position that can just kind of, you know, give him a little bit of a reprieve to where he can run the defensive line that he needs to. But man, this section right here, that turn 4 and turn 5, that's probably going to be Romano's best friend.
Matthew DeShanis will work his way into that race lead. Romano trying to get up and around in 3.5 tenths and closing. Gaps down to a quarter of a second up over the hill as we fire up and over the SS, and Romano's right there. Matthew DeShanis is going to be under heavy, heavy fire this time by as he works his way up and around. We got 60 seconds. If this caution's going to come out, it's going to have to be soon here. And now Romano trying to send it in the long way around turn 11. He'll have to set him up, I think, for 12. Now, Vine Romano, I'm trying to get an over-under established so I can get that drive back around for turn 1.
Oh, for sure. And DeShantis is doing everything he can to make that car as wide as he absolutely can. But Romano's got the run going down the front stretch. He's going to peek to the inside, going down into turn number 1. He's completely alongside, going to the corner deep. Her brakes deep, going down to the corner. Clips the curb just a little bit, but no harm, no foul. He keeps it straight. But can DeShantis get that draft to kind of get another pull back onto him going down into turn number 2? He dives back down to the inside, kind of showing his nose, but he's not quite there.
Not quite there. Giovanni Romano going to continue to battle with it as we fire up and around through the second corner towards the backstretch. Giovanni Romano doing whatever he can to try to put that number 99 Mustang up onto the point. And I can tell you right now, he is going to be in dire straits as we start to work our way further and further through. Hard on the binders, and it's going to get wild. We got trouble from Mark Bellew off the road deeper in the pack, and he is stopped stationary. So as we'll check back in on some of the other battles of the racetrack, there you see Ronenberg trying to get up and around the likes of Kyle Smith, and as that pass is completed down for turn 4, here's what happened to Bellew up over the rise. Whoa! Kicks the back end down. That's a long slide for the In-N-Out Burger Mustang.
Yeah, we've just seen so many mistakes whenever it comes to, oh wow, that was kind of weird, but so many mistakes whenever it comes to the elevation changes on this racetrack. That's what makes Mid-Ohio difficult. You know, the layout's not too crazy, but then you get on there and you see all the elevation change and just where the hills are, right? A lot of them are on, you know, throttle points or on braking points, and it just makes it so difficult for these drivers to be able to get around the corners clean. You know, you would expect with these big freaking wings on the back of these Mustangs that maybe they'd have a little bit more rear downforce, but like you mentioned earlier with the low fuel load, I mean, they only run, what, 30% fuel, so just with the lower, or sorry, the less weight in the back end, maybe it's just kind of keeping them a little bit off the racetrack. As man, Ronenberg really trying to look to the inside of Freed here for the P11 spot. Actually gets there. He's able to get completely by him before he gets to the front stretch. I thought Ronenberg was going to be able to challenge for the race win at some point in this race, but I think he went off strategy. He hit it on that caution whenever Romano didn't, even though they were relatively close. They had worked through the pack together, and unfortunately for Ronenberg, I just think that he picked the wrong strategy.
You see Adam Mailhot going off towards the background as well. So here's what happened to Mailhot this time around, coming around through turn 7. You mentioned the rear wings at the back of these Mustangs. They are massive, aren't they? But again, having witnessed these cars racing in the real world down to the local racetrack, they're not that effective. You can honestly strip the back of these wings off. It wouldn't do all that much. All the work that's being done is that those small diffusers you see on the back and the splitter on the front of these Mustangs. You take the rear wing off, it doesn't change things all that much. And in fact, it'd be about as effective as if you were to strap a rear wing to the back of a Formula Ford. It wouldn't do all that much.
So you're basically just saying they're there for the aesthetic. They make them look
pretty much. Well, they do a little bit, but it's not like, you know, if you take the wing off a USF 2000 car, it's all of a sudden going to have absolutely no rear grip at all as multi-car collision out of turn 2.
I believe that's Jason Ellen Bradley getting into it there. Jason Ellen's had a pretty eventful day, gotten sent around a couple times. That time was just his mistake, getting a little loose coming out of the corner, shuffled a little bit wide, just couldn't really hold on to it. But unfortunate for him is we have another replay, another car going around over the crest of the hill coming out of, what is that, turn number 8. I mean, it's just, these corners, man, they're just so tough with the hills. I just don't have enough to say about it.
It's one of the more difficult tracks that I think we're going to be seeing throughout the course of the season. I'd say that having been to, let's see, Orem Park, Mount Panorama, and Lime Rock Park.
I would say
I'm going to retract that statement. I think Mount Panorama takes the cake.
Yeah, but to be fair, this I came in here thinking that this was going to be a relatively straightforward race. I mean, with a 40-car field, it's hard for it to be straightforward, I guess, as we see Mailhot off the road. But I really thought that it was going to be a little bit cleaner. I didn't think we were going to see as many mistakes. I still, I thought that the hills were going to be a challenging spot, but I just didn't expect them to get as loose as they've been getting, and so many just kind of solo car spins.
Well, let's reflect here. The Production Car Challenge, which is the only official series where these cars run, does not run at Mid-Ohio very often. In fact, it hasn't run it throughout all of this last season. On top of that, this is the first time ever that this league has come here. In their entire 4-season history, this is their 5th season, they have never once come here. So this is a first. I think that might have a hand to play as to why we're seeing these guys struggle as much as they have been tonight.
That's a very good point. And there's not many racetracks that kind of have the hills positioned in the way that Mid-Ohio does, where they're just coming off the corner on the throttle. Like, I mean, you're getting
All
in
the
the point
time.
of the, yeah, you're every corner it feels like you're coming down a hill, and then there's a couple braking zones where you're going downhill, a couple braking zones where you're going uphill. So it's just a really interesting kind of challenge that this racetrack presents, because like I mentioned, the layout is not difficult. You look at it at just on a blank piece of 2D paper, right? You're just looking at it on a 2D view. And, oh man, who was that? Jordan going off towards the outside.
Huge hit for Grant Jordan.
But again, see, like that corner, if it was a piece of paper and it was just flat, that's an easy corner that nobody would have wrecked on all day. But because of that hill position right there, where you go downhill on the braking zone and uphill coming out on the gas, and then all of a sudden you're on the gas trying to get on the straightaway, and you hit the peak of the hill, and your car just becomes super light. And we've just seen so many accidents around that corner and the corner we're looking at DeShaney's going over right now.
Well, let's count them. So we got that one corner right there where you're going over a hill while you're on the throttle. Here's the second case where you're over the hill getting on the throttle. Immediately after that, not even 2 corners later, there's another one. And that's not even the last one. I think there's one more yet, just at the end of Thunder Valley before we fully close things out, which again really goes to show just how many times you get cases like this. As we've got Mark Bellew apparently having some problems in the even Alberta. Well, he's had a pretty quiet race so far, but speaking of going over the hills, can you guess? Look at that.
Oh. As soon as he hit the crest of the hill, as soon as he
Yeah.
got to the crest, that's crazy. I mean, everybody we've seen has just been exactly like that, getting a little bit too heavy on the
weight
throttle on the
transfer.
crest.
I mean, your car just gets so light over the top of the hill. It's insane. Like, it feels like your car is all of a sudden half its weight, sometimes even more exaggerated than that when you get over these crests like that.
And obviously, whenever we see people battling side by side over those hills, which we've seen plenty of tonight, especially, turn 5, the one we just looked at, I mean, it's just so difficult. I mean, you get shuffled to the outside of a 2-wide battle going across turn number 5 over that hill, and it's just so hard to hold on to the thing. And we saw, I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but going over the hill in turn 8 or hitting the apex, we saw somebody get the back bumper or the front bumper put to them, and especially going over a hill like that, if you're losing a ton of downforce going over the hill, and then also you get a back bumper to you, you got nothing, right? There's absolutely nothing you can do at that point. So I guess in hindsight, I shouldn't have been surprised that we've seen so many incidents regarding the elevation change.
It's one of the most tricky, it's one of the more tricky tracks you find in the iRacing service, and the challenge is not going to last too much longer. We've got about 2 laps left to go here in this one. Evan Campbell and Corey Barrett coming to blows here as Corey Barrett got sideways up over the hill, and he's collected Campbell in this one as they were going side by side. Come together right at the top and spinning the both around. I'll give Corey Barrett credit. It looks like he was waiting on Campbell to give that position back in redress.
Oh, man, but that's right in front of the leader. You see Romano here just squeezing through everybody. That could have been really hairy for a race leader coming at 2 to go.
About 2 laps left to go. Might be 3. Depends on when they get back around to start finish this time by. Matthew DeShamus trying to keep the likes of Chris Hannigan at bay as we fight it out for that number 2 spot on the racetrack. About a 10.5 separate these guys, and now pulling to the left is going to be Hannigan. Gets around DeShamus, and I think the number 55 got a bad run, and he didn't really fight that one too big down to the keyhole.
Yeah, it almost looked like he just let him go. I mean, I don't even know if he got that bad of a run coming out of the corner, but he just looked super slow down the straightaway. So I was actually a little worried that he ran out of gas, because I think he was a part of the first group of cars that coming to pit road. So I was a little nervous there for a minute, but he still seems a little bit slow going down the second straightaway.
Yeah, but I think he's more just biding this time. I mean, these guys know they don't have too long to go. As speaking of which, Giovanni Romano with that race lead. It will be 2 laps to go. We will be hitting our final lap this time by at the start-finish line. So this race has flown by, and once again, another race where we only have 1 yellow flag. So far, the only race we've had both has been at Bathurst, and I think it's a good point to mention that while we have a 75% chance for 1 yellow, it's about a coin toss as to whether we're going to get a second caution or flag or not. And there's also the odds that that second caution could be flown technically during the first one, because it's just the randomized bot that doesn't know when the caution's going on. They could be thrown within seconds of each other for all we know.
But we know for a fact that has not happened yet. So we have not seen that weird scenario, just because we haven't gotten the text bubble to pop up for us. But I'm kind of surprised. The one track that you probably didn't want to see the the cars get grouped back up together twice was Mount Panorama, just because of the mountain section where you're just completely closed in, and that's the one track we've had it. So that's kind of funny that works out like that.
Brian LeBlanc, I think, has had a technical failure, as I haven't seen him off the racetrack at all, but you can see him tumbling down the timing door to showing that he is out, which tells me he's had a connection failure of some sort, as Freed trying to get up and around Harry Haskin here, fighting it out for that 10th position, and finally LeBlanc pops back in way up to 5th, but he was kind of down and down for an extended period of time in that deal. This battle for 10th is far from being settled, though, on the final lap.
Yeah, it's a very solid battle for P10, like you mentioned, for Harry Haskin and Freed. But that could have been heartbreaking for Brian LeBlanc, having a 5th place run and then dropping out on the last lap. That would have been such a hit in the points. I mean, I would have been so upset if I were him, but luckily he was able to blink back in. But going back to that battle, Freed and Haskin, they're starting their final lap right now, or I think I had my corners mixed up a little bit.
They're already on the final lap.
Yeah, they're already on their final lap. My bad. I thought they were a little bit ahead of the leader, but they're going down towards turn number 4. Haskin trying to get by Freed for the 10th place spot.
Ron Wolf is also off the racetrack, and he has lost 8th as a result. Haskin will maintain his run for the 11th position. Meanwhile, Giovanni Romano working through turn number 12. He will power home, and I do believe that makes Giovanni Romano one of the first repeat podium finishers we will have all season long, as Romano takes home the race win at Mid-Ohio.
We're going to look back further. Tyler Agostino trying to pressure Brian LeBlanc for that 5th place position going through the final set of corners. Can Agostino get there and take away that top 5 finish? Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. LeBlanc got a really good run through the final corner, and LeBlanc, even with that connection issue, is able to bring it home P5.
Great drive for LeBlanc, takes it home in that number 5 spot. We look further down the field. This is now the last battle on the racetrack. Bear Morton and Tyler Carlton working through the middle section of the racetrack at the moment, as Carlton trying to keep Morton at bay. It's been a bit of a good day for Bear Morton as well. Had a bit of a bad run in the heat races. He's up 12 positions, running to the 20th spot. Still the bottom half of the field, but hey, a plus 12, that's never something to be sad about.
Yeah, no kidding. Really, really good run. Carlton trying to hold on to that position from Morton going into the final set of corners here. Kind of holding that inside line going through the what is that, third to last corner here now through 12 and 13. Catlin trying to look to the outside, Morton trying to look to the outside of Carlton, not quite going to make it work. Gets a little bit in the grass, going to have a shallow exit coming out, and he's not going to be able to do it. Carlton's going to be able to hold on to that 19th place.
Good drive overall from Bear Morton, as he will put himself into the number 20 spot at the end of the night. We're just waiting now on the last few drivers to come across the start-finish line here and get things sorted, as the other guys are already kind of on their celebrations here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. But again, what a race we've had, and it was chaos. There's no other way to put it. It's a chaotic night. It always is. We're used to it by now, I think, finally. And with everybody now across the line, we'll be able to get a rundown of your official post-race results over here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. And at the end of the afternoon, it was Giovanni Romano to take the win by 6.6 seconds over Chris Hannigan. Matthew DeShanis brings it home in 3rd. Aaron Backer will bring it up in 4th with Brian LeBlanc in 5th. Tyler Agostino is 6th with Austin Tucker in 7th. Ron Wolf, Eric Ronenberg, and Josh Freed round out the top 10, Austin.
11th is Harry Haskin, 12th Chris Bright, 13th Brooks Clayton, Sean Bradley 14th, Todd Maddle 15th, Matthew Dupuis 16th, 17th is Kyle Smith, 18th Gabriel Asilian, 19th is going to be, sorry I don't have my results pulled up, 19th is Tyler Carlton, and 20th Barrett Morton.
Moving on down throughout the field, 21st spot going to be Carson Catlin with Jonathan Lane in 22nd. Greg Beckman was in 23rd with Jordan Babcock in 24th. Adam Ilhad was 25th with Evan Campbell in 26th, finishing one lap down. Corey Barrett, Alan Kemmeyer, Mark Bellew, and Graham Jordan wrap out the top 30.
31st, Darren Bailly. 32nd, Ethan Kahn. 33rd, Tanner Klein. Blake Gramble brings home 34th. Jason L, 35th. Jeremy Castro, 36th. Mac Verstappen, 37th. And Alex Cofford, 38th.
And that's going to do it for the 38-car grid here in this one, as we will be able to get a talk with all of the folks that finished this race out on victory lane at the end of the night. And, of course, we will be able to hopefully get the chance here to speak up with Giovanni Romano, one of the drivers, of course, that finishes this race way up on the point standings. And we'll get that chance to drag Giovanni up out of the broadcast booth. And, well, Gio, you take home the race win here in round number 4. And, yeah, quite the fight going there with Matthew DeShanis with just a few laps left to go.
Yeah, that was a fun race. I think I made it a little. I created some drama there with the box full of neutrals I found leaving the pits, and I'm sure that was exciting, dramatic. And yeah, I had a good battle coming up through the field. Matt put on some good defensive moves on me, but managed to get around him at the end. I don't know if I took a couple tires, maybe that helped, but yeah, it was a good race.
So kind of looking through this race as a whole, we didn't see a lot of the major pileups we've seen throughout the first 3 weeks, but a lot more single car spins than I think we've seen in weeks past as well. So a lot more kind of on the individual screw-ups instead of, just the massive ones that we saw, particularly at Lime Rock Park. What do you think it was about Mid-Ohio that might have contributed to that tonight?
Well, it actually has runoff, unlike some of those other tracks. So, this guy spins out and goes off into the runoff and doesn't take anyone with them. And thanks to the iRacing update today, the grass is a little more grippy. So I think that in general makes things a little easier at a track like this, which is lined entirely in grass. You can drop a tire now and it doesn't immediately try to kill you. So I think that makes things just a little bit easier for everyone.
And of course, looking forward, you've had a lot of good results so far here in the opening 4 rounds here of the championship, and this race win is going to continue to propel you further and further up in the championship order. What do you think you're going to have to do to keep that momentum rolling throughout the latter portions of this first half?
More clean races like this one. I got a 0x, which is a rarity in the beer league. There's only been 3 or 4 of them or something stupid. We keep track of them, so really proud of that. If I keep having clean races like that, I'm sure it'll work out.
Well, we will wish you the best of luck then when we go racing wherever it is at race number 5. For now, though, congratulations on the race win. We'll let you get back to celebrating.
Yeah, and speaking of celebrating, Alex Cofford, said that if he dropped out of this race, it's probably because there's a baby on the way. So fingers crossed for him.
Well, fingers crossed indeed for Alex Cofford then. Once again, congratulations. That was Giovanni Romano giving us some unexpected news, I think, Austin, in the broadcast booth. We'll wish Alex Cofford all the best. That I think, is a great excuse to miss a race here tonight. I know I'd certainly be missing the race if I had that going down as well. We'll get in touch with Chris Hannigan now, the driver that brings it home in that number 2 spot. And Austin, you're standing by with second on the podium.
Hey, Chris, congratulations on the second place finish here tonight. Seemed like, man, you had some really good speed towards the middle portion of the race. Really, who was it that you were battling with? Brian LeBlanc there for a while. What more did you need towards the end of this race to maybe be able to get up there and challenge our race winner?
I needed a bigger fuel tank, man. We were the last 15 minutes, we were just saving so much fuel because, the pit windows, the car runs about 20, 25 minutes on a tank of fuel. So with that one yellow flag, we had to stretch it. And I knew when Gio pitted a lap after me, he obviously he saved in the first stint better than I could. And I think a lot of people were going for the one stop. So he saved a little bit better, got the later pit stop. And the last 15 minutes or so, we're all just lifting and coasting down the straightaways. And poor Matt, he was doing the same thing. And like 2 laps to go, he started really lifting off and falling back. But it was a good run. I mean, I got into Brian there and through Thunder Valley, totally didn't mean to. I had a good run on. I was kind of pushing him up the hill, and I think he was trying to let me go, and I didn't expect that. I was just trying to kind of peek and not actually go for the move. But when he lifted off, I kind of stuck a nose in there, so I was trying to get out of it, and we came together. And I think if that wouldn't have happened, I might have had the win tonight. But hey, it's still fun. It's a fun track. Thanks for Gio for picking Mid Ohio for us, and it's good to be back up here talking to you guys. So.
Yeah, I think this is your second podium finish on the year already too. So really impressive for you to. I think your podium percentage is 50% going, 4 races deep. That's pretty solid there for the Sonic machine. Love seeing that. But yeah, my next question was going to be about that incident, just to run us through it. But like you mentioned, I kind of feel for you because I feel like if that didn't happen, just off of the timing sheet, it looks like you were going to be challenging there side by side with Romano towards the end of it.
Yeah, I feel like the underdog here. I mean, you got Eric and Austin and Cofford, all these guys are so fast, and Gio's so fast, and I would have won Oran Park if it wasn't for the lap traffic, and I feel like I would have won this race if it wasn't for that incident. So yeah, and I didn't get to run Bathurst because we had the hurricane coming, or we had something going on that night. I couldn't race that night, so I only had 3 races, 2 podiums. It's good for me so far. Gonna try to keep it going and try to get a win. Yeah, I'll get one eventually, I'm sure. But just P2s are not You don't shoot for P2s, you know what I mean? You shoot for the win, so got to keep digging.
For sure. I didn't even realize that we had missed you a week, but that's good that we got a couple drop weeks. And, that does make your podium percentage go up to 67 instead of 50. So that sounds really, really nice. And that makes me think for sure we're going to be talking to you multiple times this year. So congratulations again on your P2 finish. I mean, really, really good run from you. And I'm sure we'll talk to you more this year.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
No problem. We're going to throw it back over to Nolan as he's got Matthew Deschênes as our P3 finisher.
Hello.
Indeed, I do. I've got the likes of Matthew Deschênes.
Well, I thought we had
here,
Nolan. Anyway.
Oh, there we go.
Now
got
he's
things
back.
sorted
Now
now. So,
Hello.
well, we got Matthew Deschênes up here in the broadcast booth. It's a third-place finish for you for the Cannabis Racing crew. And, Matthew, I do believe this is going to be one of the best finishes you've had so far all season long. It's been a bit up and down so far for that Cannabis Racing number 55. Kind of walk us through the trials and tribulations you had to walk through to get to a podium tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we did a good strategy call. We split as we usually do. I was not going to think about strategy at all. Way too much brain power, but it worked out. So I'm glad it did. There wasn't too much fighting that I needed to do. Kind of just hot lapping, which worked out in my favor. Could set some clean laps.
Overall, the pit strategy, I think, was the one that kind of threw a bit of drivers for a loop. We saw a good chunk of them come down under that first and only safety car period at about lap 9 to come down and pit. You were among that group, and I believe that came down at the pit as well, as you had to make a secondary stop. What kind of contributed to that call to pit as opposed to staying out like a lot of the other guys did?
No, I stayed out for the
did
caution.
you?
Yep, stayed out. I didn't really think to save until the last 3 laps. I was in the lead, but I didn't really think it was worth fighting Gio or Chris. I mean, I was out of gas on the line, sputtered across. I lost, I think, a 8-second gap on the last lap just from sputtering, but it worked out.
Well, it worked out indeed. You get yourself a podium finish here. What do you think you're going to have to do working into race number 5 to keep that momentum rolling forward?
Just practice. I mean, I put a good amount of practice in here. I just bought the track earlier this week, and I really enjoy it. So hopefully I enjoy next week's also.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll see what it's going to be, and hopefully it'll be one that you enjoy when we roll to see what it's going to be for race number 5. For now, though, congratulations on that third-place finish here tonight for Mid-Ohio and Lexington, and we'll let you get back to celebrating that podium.
Thank you.
As Matthew Deschênes joining us up here, third place on the podium. And, well, that is going to be a wrap then for us here in this one, Austin. Another successful race from the Beer League, and this is one of only 2 race dates that we have confirmed. The next one isn't going to be for Long Beach a few weeks from now. So race number 5 comes along. We don't know what it's going to be. We know it's going to be interesting, though, and it could be a challenge. We've seen a lot of difficult tracks being spun by the wheel. The gods of randomness have not been kind to the Beer League this season.
Yeah, no kidding. Every time we have a random track, it kind of devolves into a crazy mayhem race. I mean, Mount Panorama and Lime Rock were just absolutely insane. This one, it was more insane than I expected coming in, but it was honestly tame compared to the normal standards we've been seeing. So I think he said Gio was the one that picked the racetrack, which makes sense. He won the race, so that makes a ton of sense that he would have picked this one. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. Maybe we'll get a little bit luckier on the wheel going forward.
Well, fingers crossed we'll be luckier on that wheel going forward. For now, though, over here from Lexington, Ohio, that's going to be a wrap for us here on Greenflight TV. What a night it has been, and it's going to continue to get wild throughout the course of the week. Of course, we will be having ourselves with a race down at the Kansas Speedway tomorrow for the Speed Cup Series live at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where they continue to work their way through the round of 16 of the playoffs. And, of course, the TNGG IL Truck Series returns to Texas Motor Speedway. This time to the newer layout from the old for the Yeehaw 200. For now, though, over here from Lexington, Ohio, with the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, we want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us for some more Beer League Wednesday night racing action. My name, as always, is Nolan Rempel, alongside Austin Edstrom throughout the course of tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning along with us. We'll see you all next week when we go racing. Well, we'll find out this Sunday.